Okay, so this may look a pretty scary equation because it has the two variables, the x's, on both sides of the equation. But it isn't really any different to the other ones, and you approach them in exactly the same way because what this is telling us is that this side has the same value as this side and they're equal to each other. So if you remember, we had our little like balancing point in the middle. So whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. And as long as you remember that, and you remember that you're doing the inverse to move things about, then you can solve anything really. So the first thing I would think about when I'm approaching something like this is which side do I want to put my variables on and which side do I want to put my numbers on. Now, as you can see from this, we have two x's here and we have five x's here. If we move the x's across to the left-hand side, then we're going to end up with negative x's. Whereas if we move the 2 across to here, we're going to have positive x's. And it doesn't matter, the x's don't have to be on the left-hand side. It doesn't have to say x equals whatever, because it doesn't matter which way around it is. If x equals something, it equals something no matter whether it's on the right-hand side or whether it's on the left-hand side of the equation. So it doesn't matter if the x's are here or if the x's are here, they just have to be on one side and not on both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by moving my numbers. So I think that would probably be easiest to start with. So I'm going to put my numbers on this side and I'm going to put my variables, my x's, on this side. So to move this 24, or to get rid of this 24 from this side, this is a negative number, so it's minus 24. So to move it, I have to do the inverse, or the opposite. So what is the opposite of minusing or taking away? Well, it's adding. So to move this over to this side, then I need to add 24. So I add 24 to this side and I add 24 to this side, and this cancels out because negative 4 add 24 cancels out and becomes 0. And I add 24 to this side, and that now becomes 2x. You've got a minus 4 here, don't forget. So you're adding 24 to negative 4, so that will become positive 20 at this side. And then I have 5x left at this side. Okay, so I've moved my numbers from here and I'm beginning to get the x's on their own, but I've still got this 2x here. So how am I going to move this 2x across to this side? Well, if you think about it, there's an imaginary little positive sign in front of there that isn't written, it's just implied. It's a positive 2x. So to move that, I have to do the inverse. So to move that over to this side, I have to take away 2x. So take away 2x from this side, and we take away 2x from this side. So now I'm left with 20 equals 5 minus 2x, which equals 3x. So the final part of this question, in solving this equation, is I have to isolate the x on its own. Now if you imagine this is the same as 3 times x, this 3 is multiplying the x. So to do the inverse, to be able to move it across to the left-hand side, the inverse, or the opposite of multiplying, is dividing. So I need to divide by 3 to move it across to the other side. And then that becomes 20 divided by 3, and that cancels out, equals x. Okay, and 20 divided by 3 is 6 2/3. So x equals 6 2/3. So let's have a look at another example. So again, we need to think about which side are we going to put our variables on, the y's on, and which side are we going to put our numbers on. So again, if we move the 4 across to the right, we're going to end up with negative y's, whereas if we move this one to the left, we will have positive y's. And we want to make things as easy and as straightforward as possible. So I will start by moving my y across. Now this is a negative y, so the inverse of minusing or subtracting is adding. So to move this across, I need to add y to both sides. So this will cancel out, and this now becomes 5y. And I'm left with add 8 equals 43. Okay, but we're not finished there. We need to move the number now, and we need to move the number across to the right hand side. So we can see this is a positive 8. It's adding onto the 5y. So the inverse of adding is subtracting. So to move that over to this side, we need to minus 8 from here and minus 8 from here, and that cancels that out. So what we are left with is 5y equals 35, because we've minused the 8 from here. Now this also means 5 times y equals 35. So the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So we divide this side by 5, and we divide this side by 5. So what we are left with is y equals 7. Okay, and that is our answer.